Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to today's exam readiness bootcamp for the AWS Security Specialty Certification. So I'm excited to have with me again today the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Frank Hussein. How you doing?
I'm good. Good evening. Good day. How are you?
Yeah, doing good also, doing good. Busy day for me. Lots of meetings. Like these days, it's like there's just too many meetings, right? Every time and stuff. I was like things
I
like
can imagine.
I was like things like over. Like I guess that COVID is not like a big thing in people's consciousness anymore, right? So that's like people have sort of like moved on from COVID. I'm guessing.
Yeah. I don't think people realize there's still COVID because maybe just some banks that tell you to wear your nose mask, but apart from that, you don't see anything to remind you that there was ever a time when we were all locked up and we had to wear a nose mask whenever we went outside.
Yep.
So that's how we that's how it is right now.
Yeah. What is this one of the interesting ones? So like during the lockdown that happened in Nigeria, then was there what the market women were they allowed to like operate like market ladies that will typically be in the market, or they also had to close down?
Well, they had to close down. They had days to open. I think it was uh 2 or 3 times a week. They had Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
Oh, I
something
see.
like that. Yes, and then they had to open within a particular time period, maybe 9 till 6 or so. I know I was in Benin throughout the lockdown because I just decided to stay away from Lagos. Lagos has a lot of a lot of population, and you have to come across
Yep.
people. So I felt Benin would have less impact. So I was in Benin, and I would always do my shoppings maybe once in 2 weeks or once
Mhm.
in 3 weeks if I can, because I'll just buy and stock up, and I don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God we're past some of those periods now. So it's sort of like similar, yeah.
Thank
It's sort of
God.
like not in people's consciousness anymore, really. Also,
No, it's not. It's not.
yeah. Okay, so I just want to welcome everyone. Thanks very much for joining us again. So, just some quick reminders before we move on with today's exam preparation session. So, first reminder is if you're yet to join the AWS Cloud Security User Group for West Africa, please go to the URL that I'm going to put in the chat. Make sure you join the group. So that way you get notified whenever we have any sessions. So we don't only have exam readiness sessions, we're also going to be having guest speakers that are going to community on different topics relating to AWS security. So whether that's offensive AWS security research, whether it's someone that has worked on an AWS security project and they want to share their experience with us. So we're going to be having those types of sessions also, not just exam readiness sessions. And the other thing to point out is we do have a Medium publication. So I'll put the link in the chat window also. So we have a Medium publication where we do regularly post information, not just information about technical content, but information around maybe some advisory information, information around getting access to free training, um, also information around maybe some job opportunities that we may see. So, for example, like this one relating to some job opportunities that AWS announced West Africa, but also we're working behind the scenes with the AWS team to try to get things like exam vouchers and things like AWS credit for the community. If that goes, we are going to be posting and announcing those on the Medium publication. So you want to make sure you follow our meetup page and also follow the Medium publication. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're yet to, and make sure you also like the video. So that helps. So today, what we're going to be doing is last week we had Sir Imo started us off with the exam objective of infrastructure security. So that was the exam objective that he started us on with yesterday. And what we're going to do is we're going to treat some practice questions around this exam objective of infrastructure security. So I have a set of questions that we're going to go through together. I'll bring up the question on the screen. You let me know what you think the answer is, and then we'll review the answer and we'll explain why this is the answer, why the other one is not the answer. So this helps to keep our minds in tune in terms of understanding what to expect when we go to sit for this certification exam. And by the way, Mr. Frank, I did do my recertification last week. I did that.
Yes,
So
I was just waiting to congratulate you. I think I congratulated you online. I
yeah,
was
I on
waiting for you to
LinkedIn. Yeah.
finish. I wanted to be the first to actually say congratulations online.
No, no, thanks
Basically,
very much. It was a
yeah.
very interesting one. I will say this that my experience of the exam. So that is for the AWS Security Specialty Certification exam. So
Okay.
yeah, I think it was a bit tough. So it was a bit tough in the sense of what we talked about the last time, the timing.
Okay.
2.5 minutes per question is not a lot. When you have to read, sometimes you have to, I'm not sure how it is for you, but for me,
Okay.
sometimes I read the question the first time, and because you're in the pressure of the exam, I'm like, I don't understand what is asking me yet. So I want to read it again. And then by the time I'm reading it again, I'm reading it again, and I'm reading the answer again, and I'm like, is it this one? Let me read it again. At the end of the day, I think I had like maybe about 4 or 5 questions that I didn't answer at all because I ran out
Wow.
of time. So as I was
Wow.
clicking next, it was like, you have 5 minutes left to go. I was like, oh my God, I still have 3 more questions to go. I was like, oh, okay, read it next, read it next. And then I ran out of time. I still had like about 5 questions that I did not even touch at all. So I would
Wow.
say, if you're planning to go take that certification, practice exam questions is very important because it gets you into that mode of quickly read the question, time yourself, read the question, give an answer. Time yourself, read the question, give an answer. It gets you into that mode. I mean, that was my own feedback regarding the
Okay.
stuff. I
But
also have, yeah.
how were the questions? Were they things that, well, you're familiar with the AWS platform, but during the recertification, were the questions similar to the ones you had done before?
I'll say no because the
Okay.
AWS still has like the certifications expire every 3 years.
Okay.
So in the cloud world, that is like dinosaur years because things change
Rapidly.
rapidly in the cloud. So, when you're saying 3 years ago, AWS 3 years ago is not the AWS of today. Things have changed a lot, as have evolved a lot. So I'll say it's quite
Okay.
different. And now I have to recertify again in the next 3 years. So
Okay.
2025. Yeah.
I, I think I have another question.
Yes.
When I was talking with someone that is in Azure, and he talked about
Mm.
taking recertification exams, and he said that taking recertifications are a bit easier because for the first time when you're taking it, you have the proctors and then you are invigilated real time. But
Mm.
when you are retaking it, it's not as strict, you know, as
Yes.
taking it the first time. So is it the
Yeah.
same process with
No. So
AWS?
with the AWS one, and also there's a big difference. So because for Azure, you have to recertify every year.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
So you have to do the recertification every year. It's free, but you have to do it every year. But with the AWS one, AWS are still maintaining the 3 years, certification period, and then you have to pay for like the recertification. However, like some people could argue that Microsoft pattern may be good in terms of the educational aspect of that, in terms of democratizing it and making it available to more people. But at the same
Okay.
time, people could also argue that um, it can make it a bit less valuable, right? If an employer is like, okay, I know that when you took this, you had Google up, or you were, like, it's different. I'm not sure, like, how long you've been following like IT certifications, but if you remember, like in those days, like when people mention somebody is like CCIE, remember, have you heard the CCIE certification, the Cisco CCIE certification? It was like
Okay,
the
yeah.
top certification then, the
Yes, yes.
CCIE. Whenever they say somebody is CCIE number 1020, you're like, oh my God, this person is like, because you know the process that they went through to get that CCIE certification was tedious, right? They went through a tedious process. It was hands-on. You had limited amount of time to solve, critical network issues. It was tough. So when you come out and you're like, I'm CCIE, people are like, man, that's high level. It's different from, oh yeah, I had like my textbooks all over me. I literally was taking the certification and I was watching TV at the same time. I was watching, YouTube at the same time. And people are like, okay, I'm not so sure about that. So it's sort of like, you have arguments on both sides anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But one of the things I did not like about like the certification was that you don't get your answers, your scores immediately. I didn't like that. So what that means is that after I clicked finish button, and then I had to be wondering for the next 24 hours,
The suspense.
did I do enough to pass, or did the 5 questions I did not answer cost me trouble? Did
Wow.
I think I did enough? So my mind was, I kept going to my phone. My wife was like, go to sleep. I'll go back to my phone. I was like, have they announced anything? Have they sent me an email? Nothing. I'm like, oh my God. So it took like a long, I think I finished the exam around 1 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
And it wasn't until maybe almost 12 midday before I got the results to say you've passed. So,
Wow. Okay.
anyways, so let's get started.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's get started with today's example. So again, just keep this in mind that this helps you to sort of build your mental muscle in terms of when you're planning to take the exam. So I'm going to be timing us as we go through this. So again, you put the answer in the chat window and then we'll go through that. So here we go with the first question for today. So let's start the time. Let's go. A company hosts a popular web application that connects an Amazon RDS MySQL DB instance running in a private VPC subnet created with default network ACL settings. The IT security department has a suspicion that a DOS attack is coming from a suspecting IP. How can you protect the subnet from this attack? So you have 4 options there. So read the question, read the options, and let me know in the chat window what you think the answer is. So yeah, so I was not a fan of the suspense. I'm not sure. Are you someone that likes the suspense of?
No, I don't tolerate suspense. No, no,
And here's
no,
the
no.
funny thing is that the type of movies that I watch, I love thriller movies. Those movies that at the end of it, you're like, oh my God, what's going to, at the end of like the series, you're like, what's going to happen to the next one? Those are the kind of movies. I can't tolerate a movie that I know what's going to happen in the movie. It's not interesting to me. It's got to be like something that's thrilling. My wife, on the other hand, if she's watching those type of movies, she'll bring out her phone, and she's not bringing out her phone for just bringing out her phone. She's bringing out her phone because she's going to Google to find out what happened in the movie
Okay.
because she can't stand that. How about you? Do you watch what type of movies do you watch?
I do. I prefer comedy. I prefer. I prefer epic.
Ah, nice.
So, but anything that has to keep me wondering or guessing, I might just sit down and okay, let's see where this goes. I might lose interest and just go and do something else. But the suspense, even when if somebody comes and tells me I have something to tell you, okay, I'll tell you later. I I don't think I would scream and tell you, please tell me the answer. Just like now, I say,
Yeah.
okay, I think the answer is A, and then you say, okay, I'll tell you next class, and I have to wait and say, oh, wait. So I must know that okay, A is not the answer. Maybe it's B, and why is it B? So I don't
Yeah.
tolerate suspect.
Oh, so this one is very interesting because a lot of people are going for A as the answer. So let's go ahead and let's review the answer. Let's see if the answer is indeed A. So first of all, let me sign into my AWS account
Okay.
so I can show you what the explanation is once we kickstart. So let me just quickly go to my MFA. Quickly, got a few more seconds. Okay, so we ran out of time. So let's go to review what the answer is. First of all, let me quickly do my MFA, which is 0276. So a lot of people went for A. So let's check whether it's A. A says, change the inbound security group to deny access from the suspecting IP. So in other words, so in this particular case, company has a web application, connects to Amazon RDS, and the private subnet. ID security team has a suspicion that it does attack is coming. How can you protect it? So many people went for A. So here is the question that I have for people that went for A. Can you configure an AWS security group to deny access? Can you do that? It's a very interesting question. So, so let's go see if we can do that. Can we configure an AWS security group and say we want to deny access? So what I'll do is I'll go very quickly to my AWS environment and let's see if into checkout. Can we do that? So let's look for security groups. And if I go to bring up a security group very quickly, come on. Okay, here we go. So if I go to under security groups, I'm going to bring up a security group and I'm going to show you an example. So, okay, so I have one already. So I'm going to go to that one and I'll go to edit the inbound rule. And let's see, Frank, can I do that? Okay, hold on. So I want to add a rule. So I can add a rule to say, so let's go to add a rule. I can say anything that's coming from this IP address, or I can add a rule. I can add a port range. I can add a source, right? And I can, let me minimize this so it's a bit clearer. So I can add the source of the traffic. Well, can I add a deny? No, I can't add a deny. So in AWS security group, you do not configure deny. It denies all traffic by default. You only specify traffic that you want to allow. So A is not the answer. So maybe the people that went for A, maybe you want to think of another answer very quickly. So here's the answer. The answer in this case is C. You change the inbound network access control list to deny access from the suspecting IP. You cannot configure deny access for in security group in this one. So in AWS, the way that it works is whenever traffic is coming in, there is something called network access control list. That's sort of like the initial filter for traffic. Only if it passes through that, then it goes through your security group, and then it goes to your instance. So the answer to this one is C. The answer to this one is not D. So Frank, the answer is not D, the answer is C. So let's go to the next question. So you see why this type of questions are good, right? Because they challenge our thinking in something that you may not have thought about. Somebody may have read about security group, but may not have thought about, can I configure it to deny traffic? Until you get asked a question, then you go, oh my God. So Adekweju says, can I see that from the portal? Yes. So I just showed that from the portal now. So if I go back to the portal, you can see that I can specify the traffic that I'm selecting. You can specify, whether all traffic, SSH traffic, and all the stuff. I can specify the source. I can specify that, but I can only specify allow. There's no way for me to specify and say deny anything. So you're only specifying what you're allowing. So that's what you're doing here. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's move very quickly.
If you don't add, if you don't add that particular traffic, does it not mean deny?
Yes. So it's going to mean deny. Is what that's going to mean. Okay. So so that's traffic that's allowed to reach the instance. So that's going to be deny. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I think Adekweju says network ACL. So if you go to like your, so let's go back to a bit slow today. So I may not want to delay things a lot because of the, you can see that it's dragging. I clicked on that like some seconds ago and it's dragging. So if I go to network ACLs in the left-hand side here, that is just really slow. I'm not sure if it's just my internet or stuff. So, but network ACLs, come on. So let's go to network. So that's sort of like the first layer of filtering for traffic. So I've clicked on that. Okay, if I click on one of that, for example, right, for inbound rule, you can see here I can specify allow and deny. So when I go to edit this one, I can go specify this traffic, and when I'm adding that traffic, I can specify whether I want to allow it or I want to deny it. So that's that one. Okay, so let's go to the next question very quickly. So you have 3 minutes for this one also. So this one is also related to infrastructure security. So let's set 3 minutes time. So 3 minutes. A company is hosting a website in AWS VPC that must be accessible to public users for HTTPS traffic. Should be open for administrative purposes. The administrator's workstation has a static IP address 203.0.113.1/32. Which of the following security group configurations is the most secure but still functional to support the requirement? So you have to select 2 options. So read the question again and let me know which 2 options you're going for in this one. So let's see. So yeah, what said you watch comedy, Frank? So which types of comedy do you have? Like a favorite comedian?
Not really. When I was much younger, maybe Mr. Bean, but
Yeah.
what comedy have I seen recently? Uh, Funny thing is, the last movie I saw was Minions.
Okay, yeah,
That's
nice.
an animation,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's funny.
yeah. It is. It is
Um,
very funny.
Before then, it was Thor, Love and is it Love and Thunder?
Oh, I've not heard
So
that one
it
before. Love
has
and
a
Thunder. Oh,
Thor,
okay. There's a new. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, it's
the
so
new
yeah,
one. So
yeah,
it has a bit of comedy in it. So
yeah.
things like that, not action or
Oh,
suspense
does it
or
really have comedy in it? I didn't know that. I didn't know that Thor. I thought that Thor would be
yeah,
all about, stuff. Would be
the
all about
lines
action.
have some plots, some funny comedy in it.
Okay. So I think we have a few answers here. We have A and D, we have A and B, and we have A and D. So let's go ahead. I know that we still have a few more seconds, but remember you only have 2 minutes, 30 seconds when you're doing the exam. So let's go ahead and review this. So in this particular case, a company is hosting a website in AWS VPC, and that must be accessible to public users for HTTPS traffic. So traffic should be open for administrative purposes. So it should be open for administrative purposes. So the administrator workstation has a static IP. Which of the following security group configuration is the most secure but still functional to support the requirement? So people went for A. So an A will definitely be right, because in this particular case, you are allowing public users HTTPS traffic. So public users will be 0.0.0.0/0, which will be from anywhere. So you're allowing them access. So, and the next one, which is where there's a little bit of difference. So some people went for B, some people went for D, some people went for just C. So let's see what the answer is. The answer to this one is D. D is the answer to this one. Because in this particular case, you want only the administrator's workstation to have access via SSH, to have access for administration, which is SSH, to have access to that instance. So in this particular case, the answer will be D, will give you the most secure configuration to lock it down. So this is insecure because it opens up SSH to the public internet. So answer is D. So awesome. So let's go to the next question. Let's see. So the next one, you should be able to answer this because Mr. Imo, I think, Sir Imo touched on it last week. So let's see. So this one, I will just give you 2 minutes. So 3 minutes is too much for this one. So let's give just 2 minutes, actually less than 2 minutes. So here we go. You have a website that is sitting behind AWS CloudFront. You need to protect the website against threats such as SQL injection and cross-site scripting attacks. Which of the following service can help in such a scenario? So you have 4 options there. You need to protect against SQL injection and cross-site scripting attacks. Which AWS service can you use? So I can see Mr. Malik was the first to answer, saying B, followed by Atekweju going for B. Also, men also going for B. And it's looking like we have a consensus. It looks like around B. So I'll just wait if we get any disputing answer. Otherwise, we can go ahead and we can review this. So let's go ahead and review this because I can't see any other answer. So the answer to this one is indeed B, AWS WAF. So trusted advisor doesn't help you to block SQL injection or cross-site scripting attacks. It's just an AWS service that you can use to get recommendations on best practices. AWS Inspector is something that can help us with vulnerabilities for EC2 instances, but it doesn't help to block SQL injection and cross-site scripting attacks. AWS Config is a service that we can use to assess configuration compliance in AWS. So you can say, here are the rules, the compliance rule, and I want you to flag if anything is not compliant with this set of rules. So the answer to this one is indeed B. So Frank, the answer is not A, and D, the answer is B, AWS WAF. So let's go to the next question. So this one, giving you 3 minutes for this one. So you have to read this one also a bit closely. So let's stop that and let's give 3 minutes. So let's go. You have a 2-tier application hosted in AWS. It consists of a web server and database server, SQL Server, hosted on separate EC2 instances. You are devising the security groups for these EC2 instances. The web tier needs to be accessed by users across the internet. You have created a web security group, WG123, and a database security group, DB345. Which combination of the following security group rules will allow the application to be secure and functional? Choose 2 answers from the options given below. So this is one of the ones I was talking about, Frank. You see, that's quite a long grid, right? And then you have to read that, try to understand what he's asking you to do, and try to formulate what you think the answer is within 2.5 minutes.
Well, so nobody has come up with an answer yet.
Yeah, because now you have to figure out what is WG123, DB345, and where do I put that?
I know this is quite long, but I did one Ojoro in my head
Mhm.
to get the answer.
Yeah.
I'll just wait. I'll
What
just wait till
you share
everybody's
the
done.
trick with us later.
I don't know if I'm correct. That's why, and I don't want to influence anybody's answer, so I'm just quiet,
Okay,
observing.
no problems. Adequately remember that you have to select 2 answers. You have to select 2 answers. So the man, remember that you have to select 2 answers. So read the questions. Remember, when you're doing the exam, read the questions. You have to select 2 answers in this case. So it's asking you for a combination that will give you, that will allow the application to be secure and functional.
Okay,
So I can
time
see a lot
goes
of people
up.
are going for A.
But they're supposed to pick 2 answers.
Yep, there are 2 answers here. In this case, there are 2 answers. And we ran out of time. So let's go ahead and let's review what the answer is. So in this particular case, it says, so I can see Adequaju came back and said A and C, and Malik said A and C. So now we have two answers now. So we have A and C, and we have A and C from Adequaju also. Okay, so let's see. So you have two-tier application. So you have a web server, so web, and then you have a database server. And you have security groups for them. So the web tier needs to be accessed by users across the internet. It has a security group called WG123. The database server probably only needs access from the web server. So it has a security group called DB345. So which combination of the rules will allow the application to be secure and functional? So this needs access from the public. So let's review the first one. So A is indeed correct in this case. So because that will allow the members of the public to access the web server. So, but which one gives the secure access to the database server? In this particular case, let's look at B. Allow port 1433, which is a database port for secure from WG123. That's interesting. So it says you configure that on this. So C says on the web server, allow port 1433 from WG123. And D says on this security group, allow port 1433 from 0.0.0.0/0. Answer to this one is this. I have to allow access on that security group, DB345, and I have to allow access to the web server. And the most secure way to do that is to allow access to this security group here, which means the answer in this case is A and B. A and B is the answer to this one. So so Frank, did your Ojo style did he lead you to the correct answer?
I would have gotten one.
One out of that. So the good thing about it in AWS, a very interesting one, is that you can actually, so whenever you associate with an EC2 instance, you can reference that security group in other security group rules. So in this particular case, if you want to give access to the database server to the web server, you can call this security group to define that access. So it allows us to define security groups. Instead of just defining IP addresses, we can define a security group attached to an instance, and we can use that. So I can see, I'm not sure. Frank, what do you think? Suleiman and Malik came up with A and B. Did their answers come in before I reviewed the answer, or did their answer come in after I reviewed the answer?
He came in a bit late because this is like less than 2 minutes ago.
so Malik and Suleiman, I'm not sure yet, So let me quickly show that to you. So if I go to like this one, for example, so if you're configuring this, I can go ahead and specify. If I go to edit the row, when I'm defining the source, for example, so Suleiman is already admitted, he's already going here. So I can specify another security group. So if I go from custom, but instead of specifying IP addresses, I can go for custom like SG, and you can see I can specify security group as a source. So that is me specifying security group instead of specifying an IP address. So it allows us to do that. Okay, so let's go to the next question. So I think that this has been the toughest one so far, this particular question. So this other next one, let's see. Okay, it's a very interesting one. So this one, you only have 2 minutes. It's not a very long one. So let's see how you do with this. 2 minutes, and let's start. A company wants to have intrusion detection system available for their VPC in AWS. They want to have complete control over the system. Which of the following would be ideal for implementing? So you have 4 options. The company wants intrusion detection. Which option can they use to implement this? So this is testing your knowledge of AWS services and the features that they provide, the features that they support. Suleiman said hello. Yes, Suleiman. So how well do you know your AWS services and the features that they provide? Is what this is testing. So I can see A from Adepeju, A from Malik. So we have 2 A's already. So let's see any other answers. A also. Okay. We're running out of the time. And we're running out of time already. So almost everyone went for A. Frank, did you pick an answer in your mind?
Yes, I did.
For this one. Okay, so let's see. So the answer to this one is drumroll B. So does AWS WAF have intrusion detection capabilities? The answer is no. Keep this in mind if you're planning to do the exam. It does not. No native service in AWS offers intrusion detection capabilities for EC2 instances in the VPC. AWS WAF does not. It protects against web application attacks, but not intrusion detection or where it's doing deep packet inspection. So C does not help with that because C is just looking at the network activity and it's trying to identify issues with them. That's not doing deep packet inspection and actually inspecting the frame and the content of the packet like an IDS would do. CloudWatch is just a monitoring service, so it does not help with that. So whenever you look at AWS documentations and you see intrusion detection come up, you will see that they're going to be referencing third-party services. So intrusion prevention, and you see that they're referencing a large logic, Trend Micro, McAfee. They are not referencing AWS services for that. So the answer to this is B. So Osazi, A is not part of the answer. The answer is B. Yes, exactly. So you have to go for something like a large logic, Trend Micro, or some other third-party service to do that. Maybe like a Palo Alto or some other device. So how are we doing so far? This is good, right? It's good because I tell you something, Frank. I tell you something. It's very interesting, right? I work with like cloud services every single day. In terms of the type of role that I do, I work with cloud services. Every single day I'm working with cloud services. And there is no time that I do a practice question that I don't learn something. Because that's how knowledge grows. You have to test the knowledge. Many people don't like tests, but it's good because sometimes until someone asks you a question, you don't think about the scenario until somebody asks you something. Like maybe somebody has read about AWS security services, but they just thought, oh, WAF, this does WAF, this does that. But they've not asked, somebody has asked them the question, do you have IDS there? Until you see it and you're like, oh my God, I don't remember seeing IDS. Did I see IDS? Did I not see IDS? So it helps us to like really, check and establish knowledge. That's why I like it. Every single time I do a practice question, I learn something new every single time. Okay. So I'm not sure how you flow with that, Frank. Is that the same with you? Like, this is actually like a good learning tool
Yes,
for you.
it is. I'm actually enjoying myself right now.
Nice, awesome. So this one, Frank, you have to do this one in 2.5 minutes. This is one of the ones that I was talking about, right? It's one of those ones that it's a long read, but when you're doing it in the exam, you essentially have about 2.5 minutes and stuff. So okay, let's get started. So a security team must present a daily briefing to the CISO that includes a report of which of the company's thousands of EC2 instances and on-premises servers are missing the latest security patches. All instances/servers must be brought into compliance within 24 hours, so they do not show up on the next day's reports. How can the security team fulfill this requirement? So read the options. You have to provide a report to your CISO to say, here are the EC2 instances that are vulnerable. Here's how I'm going to patch them to make sure they're not vulnerable by tomorrow morning. So which option can you use to meet this requirement? So I can see there's a B answer that came in from Malik now. There's a D that came in from Adekweji now. So let's see. We still have a few more. Let's see if any other answers come in. Frank, have you picked your answer yet?
Okay.
So let's see. So there's a C answer that came in right now from RC Cars XDR. That's a very interesting name that you got there. So I saw XD out there, which sounds like security to me. You know, XDR for detection. And this RC Cars seems like someone that likes cars. I'm not sure. So and so the man's going for B. So we have two Bs, we have one D and one C. Oh, Adepeju is changing his answer now. Adepeju, Suleiman, you've influenced Adepeju now. Adepeju is going for your answer now. He's going for C, for B now. Let's see. So while we're doing that, so we've run out of time now. So let's go ahead and see what the answer is. So first of all, let's start with Trusted Advisor. Does Trusted Advisor help us to generate the result of compliant AWS instances? So no, Trusted Advisor don't give us that information. Trusted Advisor gives us information on best practices, right? So Trusted Advisor. So Azure has a similar service for those that are familiar with Azure, also called Advisor, Azure Advisor. So what it's going to do is it's going to give you like quick information about, here's the recommendation around how you're using this service. But this one says you have an EC2 instance. I want something that will monitor that EC2 instance and tell me if it's vulnerable. So Trusted Advisor does not help you with that. So this is out already. QuickSight also and CloudTrail does not help you with that. So CloudTrail, as some of you may know, is a service for monitoring APIs, for logging, for API logging on AWS. So when you're making calls to the AWS APIs, service APIs, CloudTrail can log those activities. So this is out. So now we are left with two. And the two of them, the first part takes us in the right direction. Use System Manager Patch Manager to generate a report of out of compliance instance server. Can System Manager help us with this? Yes. So you can install an agent on your EC2 instance called the System Manager agent, and that agent is going to look at your EC2 instance and what you've installed and check for vulnerabilities and report the back to System Patch Manager. So it's going to do that. That checks out. But what about the second part? Second part, which it says you need to be able to fix those issues within 24 hours and then show them that they've been fixed within 24 hours. Let's look at option C. Does this help us with that? This option is wrong. So why is it wrong? Because this option says the way for you to fix it is to redeploy all the servers using an AMI. However, the question says you have EC2 instances and on-premises servers. So while this option would work, if it's only EC2 instances, you cannot use an AMI to redeploy an on-premises server. So this option is out. So that leaves us with one option, option B, because option B allows us to use System Manager, Patch Manager to install the patches, whether it's an EC2 instance of AWS or whether it's an on-premises server. So answer is option B is the answer to that. So let's see who got it right. So let's highlight you that got that right. So we go Malik got it right because Suleiman got it right. Adekweju was influenced by either by both Malik and Suleiman. Changed his answer and you eventually got that right also. So well done. Awesome. So let's take a few more questions for today before we round up. So let's see. Let's see the next question that we have, how interesting that is. Oh, this is a very interesting one. Let's see. So 3 minutes again. Let's see that. 3 minutes. Your department is in charge of developing an e-commerce website where customers can browse and purchase products online. The application is developed in the AWS platform. A wide range of AWS services is used, including EC2, Lambda, CloudFormation. Recently, internal security auditors asked you to provide a document to state that the related AWS services meet the PCI compliance. How should you provide the document? So this is testing your knowledge of AWS services. Which service can you use to provide this kind of compliance report in AWS? So read through the options and let me know what you think the answer is. Oh, Osazi said B. Osazi was like, bro, the answer is B. So Osazi, he wants to submit a support request to AWS to get the compliance document for you. And then we have Adepeju going for D. So Adepeju says, no, I'm not going to be sending a report to AWS, a support request to AWS. I'm going to go to something called AWS Artifacts to generate the report and provide it to my auditors. So 2 different approaches already. See? Any other answer? And I think after this one, we only have the time to take one more, and then we'll call it a day for today. And then we have D, so Malik going for D there. And then we have B, so we have 2 Bs, and then we have 2 Ds. Oh, and then we have, I'll say KazXDL says, forget all this option. I would just go to AWS config, resource inventory, and I'll download my reports directly from there. So forget raising an AWS request, forget going to AWS artifacts. Let's use AWS config for this one. Okay, so I think I'll go ahead and review the answer here. So to help you see what the answer is to this one, so I guess everyone has pretty much ruled out option A, because not going for option A, everyone has essentially, oh, actually I reviewed it already by mistake. I was going to use my pen, but accidentally. Suleiman, come on. Suleiman, come on. Nah. I reviewed that, but that answer came in. So the answer is D. And if you have a look, if I go over to the AWS and I search for artifacts, look at the description of the service that came up. It says AWS compliance reports and agreements. And then this is a service that you can use to generate reports on the compliance of underlying AWS services. So when we're talking about compliance in AWS, the two main ones from of people have AWS, and then you have AWS. AWS artifacts is what you use if you want to generate reports about underlying AWS services. In other words, what is AWS responsible for, right? Underlying AWS services. AWS config is what you use if you want to generate reports for what the customer looks after. So the way that it works, Frank, is this. We're talking about compliance in the cloud, like AWS. Compliance is a shared responsibility. What that means is you're not responsible for all the compliance in AWS, Frank, right? So for example, are you responsible for the compliance of the underlying server in AWS? Are you responsible for that? You don't even have access to it, right? So how can you be responsible for that? So AWS has a responsibility, but you also have a responsibility. If you deploy something on that server, you're responsible for the compliance of that. The underlying server, AWS is responsible for the compliance of that. You want to get a report of the underlying compliance of what AWS are responsible for, you use AWS artifacts. You want to get compliance report for what you are responsible for, you use AWS config. So just keep those two in mind if you're planning to do the exam. So in this particular case, the question is asking us and saying, you want to get reports regarding AWS services, right? Not your services that you're running that you need to assess. It's talking about AWS services. You want to check that they meet the PCI compliance. In this particular case, you're going to use AWS artifacts to do that. So hopefully that makes sense. So here's the final question for today, and then we can call it a day. So final question. So make sure you get the this one right, Let's go to that. Oh, by the way, can people still hear us? Because I'm getting an error message here saying there's a connection issue. Can you just let me know in the can you just let me know in the chat window if you can still hear us? Just let me know so that Frank and myself are not just speaking that you cannot hear us. So if you can hear us, just put something in the chat window so I know that you can hear us. Awesome. So I think people can hear us. And awesome. Yes, awesome. Thanks for confirming. Also, see, I think that we can all agree that that's too late. That is definitely too late. Final question. So you still have one more option or chance to do that. Here is the final question for today. So, let's set our timer for 3 minutes. Let's go. 3 minutes timer, and let's go to start. You just joined a big IT company as an AWS security specialist. Your first assignment is to prepare for an external security audit next month. You need to understand how your company uses AWS services and whether or not they can meet security compliance. You know that AWS artifacts can help you provide security compliance evidence to the auditor. Which specific areas can AWS artifacts help you? Select two. So this one is probing your knowledge of AWS artifacts. The previous one is like, now you know AWS artifacts can help you with this report. What types of reports can artifacts help you with? This is what this question is asking. So you select two answers. So read through the options and let me know what you think. This is the final question for today. So let's see any answer yet. Still waiting for the answers. So what compliance reports can Artifact help us with? So let's see. So we got first person to answer. I think Peju says C and E. Interesting. So client-side data encryption and data integrity authentication. And Malik also saying C and E. And Samad also saying C and E. So the C and E seems to be popular with people with regards to this. So C and E, a lot of C and E there. So let's see. So it's a lot of people going C and E. So Suleiman says, oh, I'll try something different. I'll go for B and C in this particular case. And the time is up. Again, remember the explanation. I sort of gave you like a little bit of tip with my explanation earlier. Remember, Artifacts gives you compliance reports of what AWS looks after. Config gives you compliance reports of what you look after. So that should help us to eliminate a lot of the options here. Because, for example, who looks after security configurations for EC2 instances? Is that me or is that AWS, Frank? Who looks after that? Security configuration of my EC2 instance. I'm responsible. So Artifacts cannot help me with that, right? Client-side data encryption. Who looks after the encryption of my data and data integrity? Who is responsible for that? AWS or me?
For which one?
For client-side data encryption. Remember, it says client-side data encryption. Who is responsible for that?
You.
Me. So that has already taken that out because Artifacts is not for what I'm responsible for. It's for what AWS is responsible for. IAM and role configuration in terms of the users that I'm creating and the permissions that I'm giving to them. Who looks after that? AWS or me?
You.
Me. That's out. So the only two options that we have are A and D. Because every other thing I look after. AWS Artifact is for what AWS looks after. So if we go to the stuff that we saw earlier, so when I brought up these documents, so go to when I brought Artifact, and if I go to the types of reports, you can see that with Artifact, I can view relating to ISO reports. If I search for ISO, which is what D is talking about, AWS ISO applications. So, and if I go to this one, so if I scroll down, you can see that I can see ISO here, right? I can see ISO, so you can give me that report. I can also see SOC report of what AWS looks after. So if I scroll down, I can see SOC reports here. So SOC 1 report and other SOC reports, and that is for A. So the answer is A and D. So that brings us to the end of today's study session. So hopefully these are sort of like gingered some motivation within you to sort of practice some exam questions, look into those topics and see, what does this AWS service do? What can it not do? Right? And help to sort of like get yourself in that frame of mind ready for when you take the exam. Again, we're working very hard behind the scene with AWS to make sure that we can get exam vouchers for the community. So make sure you stay connected in our meetup group. Make sure you're connected to our Medium. And also, if you're yet to subscribe to the YouTube channel and also like this video, please. Frank, any final point that you want to make before we call it a day?
Nope. No final points. Still a lot of work to be done by me. And I think a lot of people, because from this last answer, I selected the D, but I wasn't too sure about which other one.
Yeah,
I was
hey,
thinking it's A, but uh,
you'll
when
be
I was
absolutely fine.
seeing
Yeah.
other people, nobody was actually selecting what I was selecting, and I was thinking, so oh well, we all need to go back to the drawing board. We have to practice, practice, practice. I
Yeah.
think
So
there's
here's the thing,
enough
Frank.
time till we get the voucher.
I think you'll be okay. I think you'll be okay because here's the thing: is that what do you think happened to me the first time I took a lot of these test questions? Do you think I was just getting it like that? No, that's not the way it works. That's why we do
Mm,
them. That's why we do them. It does not matter the experience that you have, you always have blind
okay.
spots. No matter, even if you're working with AWS every day, you may never have used AWS artifact or ever touched it, right?
True.
So that's why we do this exam question. So you'll be absolutely fine. It's normal first time when you do this to have this sort of pass it. But the next time you do it,
Okay.
of course, your knowledge of that AWS service has increased. But how did they increase? By doing the test question. So you'll be absolutely fine. Trust me. Okay. Thanks very much,
Okay.
everyone, for joining us today. We'll see. I don't think that we're going to be having a session tomorrow, unfortunately, because it collided with. Oh, sorry.
Malik has a question.
Oh, okay. Malik, do you want to
Uh,
quickly give your question before we call it a day so that we can round up on time? We actually already 5 minutes over time. So if you want to quickly ask your question, and then we can quickly ask that. So unfortunately, I'm not sure that we'll be able to. So Frank and myself will work on a method for Frank to be able to host this alongside someone else whenever I have a conflict in meeting. But unfortunately, I have a meeting at work that I can't pull out of. It's super important. So I won't be able to join tomorrow. So apologies for that, but we're going to pick things up from there next week. And also we're going to make sure that we prevent that by making sure that Frank has all the access that he needs. And also we have someone that can also join Frank to help. Okay, so I can see a question from Malik. So what I'll say is Malik, reach out to us on any of our other forums, whether on Meetup, on YouTube, or on some other stuff. So reach out to us and we'll try to answer your question because we don't want to keep other people waiting because of the time. So it's been a pleasure again. Frank and myself are glad that you've joined us. So see you next week. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do that tomorrow, but have a lovely rest of the evening, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.